Um, a quick note for those just tuning in at some point. Ideally, you will have a pen and a piece of paper and something like a tea light or some sort of small flame in a way that won't set off a fire alarm. Doesn't have to be a flamethrower, just something to burn a piece of paper.
All set, we can start. Thank you for teaching.
Okay, cool. Here we are. Halfway point of the course. Our numbers are reflecting that. As we get, further into the course, try to have some perseverance. Um, I also feel it's like I'm really excited with every class, and at the same time, it's like, oh my God, another class. But hopefully having some perseverance to see it through in a joyful, way. So today, what we're going to do is I'd like to have a chance for people to ask questions or share reflections from the last class or the whole course. We're at the halfway point. We're going to talk about the book. So how to track the core values that we are establishing for ourselves. Then we will do a breakout group talking about that and kind of sharing our ideas on that. So do that. Label yourself in the language group you want. Then we'll do like talk about, well, we've established our core values. We'll talk about tracking those core values. What do we do when we succeed or mess up? And we'll talk about that as a mini, like a mini Sojung ceremony. Then we'll get into the class content, which is 10 non-virtues. Cool. Eka, too fast, too slow? Okay. All right. Cool. So that's the plan today. Um, let's begin. Good morning, Sarah. I told your mom what you said today about breakout rooms. Your mom's been a bad influence on you. Sarah's like, do I have to do breakout group this morning? It's like, oh my God, am I talking to Rosie, or am I talking to Sarah? Unreal. No, you don't have to do anything, but let's enjoy it. The book. Um, okay, so here's our flow. Oh no, let's not talk about the book yet. We just had an amazing, inspiring, thought-provoking class on different ideas on ethics or moral systems. And I hope people had a chance to reflect. I saw some people post some ideas. Wendy, thank you. Super cool. Karina. And then I saw also there was some questions in the Russian chat. Shocking. But we don't generally have time for questions. So I thought we'd start if there's anybody that has a burning question, or if anybody wanted to share reflections since last class. We'll start with that. Sarah dipped already.
Well, you know me, I always have questions, you know. Can I
Yeah,
address the
please.
question? We have been discussing the idea with Benji about forms, vows as a forms, and different groups' perspectives, different Buddhist groups thinking that vows is an intention, vows is a form, and like we're a little stuck on that idea. Like it's not, Madhyamika's school is not completely understandable. So if we can talk about it a little bit more, it would be great. I know it's not.
Like what is a vow?
Yeah, like what is a vow in the highest school?
It's yeah. What have we left? It's the Prasangika said it's like a continued intention to act in a certain way, something like that, right?
Well, they said that this is like a concept and it exists as a form, and just a little confusing. It's not the intention, it's quite the opposite. Like it exists as a form, and yeah, let me see how they write it.
Hmm. Let me let me think about it because after that class, Geshe Michael gave some more details, and I didn't go back and represent his clarification. Um, so let's kick that question to next class, and I will go back and try to figure out what Geshe was trying to clarify. It's mostly the lower schools, though.
Yeah,
So
okay, sounds great.
let's punt that till next class,
Okay, thanks.
avoiding hard questions as fast as I can there. You got an easy question? Thought? Something to share? Like we're halfway through. Like, has anything, what are the insights? Questions or insights?
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Yes, I feeling like depressed because uh, when I think about my sixth or about my goals, uh, uh, I I remember how I lose it, how I um, don't take my six times books. It's depressed. Maybe you can some advice
Yeah.
about about my problem.
So you were cutting out a little bit, like depressed because you don't keep it as well as you used to. Yeah. Okay. I can relate. Totally what we're gonna do today. And we're gonna share those ideas. Um, Karina, here is my personal agenda today. Questions and maybe answers. I was right. Christina, I'll share one thing and then that will be the topic today. I used to be really good at doing my book 6 times a day and every day when I first started doing it. And then I think as everyone who tries to do that practice, it's hard to keep going 6 times a day. And years later, just feeling like, oh, I used to do this 6 times a day. And now I only, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know where my book is. Like, I just haven't seen it in months. And, then you start doing it again and start to be consistent again. And it's these cycles. But one of the things I realized was when I first started doing it, I checked my mind 6 times a day. And that was it. And now, because I did that for years and years, like years, I check my mind all the time. So formally, do I write in my book 6 times a day? I write in my book less now than when I started, but I check my mind way more. You know, and so when we think about the book, we think about it as like a 6 times a day book, but it's at least 6 times a day. It's like a 60 times a day book, 600 times a day book. And I suspect that a lot of us follow that same progression of, checking my book 6 times and then falling off a little bit. But even when we fall off, I hope that we've trained our mind that we're checking the mind a whole bunch, you know. And the book is a method to train our mind. And so it's more important to be constantly checking the mind than to be writing in a book. I find those two things reinforce each other. I'm not suggesting don't do the book, but I think we can get depressed. I think we can be doing a better job and think we're doing a worse job. Because, I used to check my book a lot. I used to write my book a lot. I didn't check my mind a lot, but I wrote in my book 6 times. So I don't know, that's some thoughts on it. Second thought is, we can have all of these practices and intentions and use it as another reason to feel bad about ourselves. I don't find that super helpful. I don't find feeling bad about myself because I'm not doing something motivating personally. What I do find helpful is having community that helps me out, or kind of like we have an opportunity now to reset. Okay, taking this course, I can recommit to twice a day, and then we take a baby step towards getting to the place that we want to be without all of the unhelpfuls. For me, it's just not helpful when I'm self-critical. It doesn't help me develop a habit. It doesn't help me. For me, it doesn't motivate me to feel crappy about myself. Taking small steps to build a better habit do. So there's some thoughts. And we'll share some ideas right now. So let's talk about this idea of keeping a ethical journal, and what Geshe Michael called the book. And so let's see the flow. Like we've started with, what are some great thinkers? What are their ideas on vows, ethics? And in the first class, I think we said karma is shintukokyu. Karma is deeply hidden. So we go to an enlightened being who can see cause and result perfectly. And then they're like, well, because I can see cause and result, here's a list. Don't do this, 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 this. It's just not going to work out very well for you. Right. And so we take that list and we can adopt that as our ethical code. And we can do that formally or informally. You know, start with a list of 5 things. Oh, that's cool. Here's a list of 10. It's a little more refined. Rosie was sharing that there's 3 in the Catholic tradition you grew up with. Can you write those 3 in the chat? Like, why do we need more than 3? You know, these 3 cover all of it. And I think that's super cool. I love simplicity. But there's times when I also like complexity. And then we get the Bodhisattva vows where there's 18 root vows. And then there's, I don't know, 36 secondary vows or whatever it is. And they're broken out into 137. And then there's 253 tantric vows. And then it gets like exciting in how refined they get. And I personally found that really helpful. So we start with, you know, the list of stuff in our tradition. So then, Christina, part of the, for me, is also keeping track of the things that are just important to me. Like I can get bored of don't destroy a city, don't destroy a town, don't destroy a country. Like, all right, you know, I'm going on year 25 of not destroying a city. I'm pretty good at that. You know, so it's okay. Well, like, did I kick over an ant hill today? No. You know, I didn't go around stomping on ant hills also today. And it's like, well, how do I make that relevant? And we'll talk about that, you know, today about kind of this idea of concentric circles, but it's inspiring for my mind to be super careful with not harming others. And so I love don't destroy a city. Okay, I can really think about how I harm others, but at some point it's hard. So then sometimes I just fill my book with what's relevant to me. How do I keep it interesting? Well, that was kind of the point of the lists yesterday, or last class. Like what core values are inspiring to me that I really want to track, because that's going to make me the person who I want to be. So and I like thinking about what are the things that weren't relevant 2000 years ago. You know, Buddha didn't write about morality in relation to the internet. And so what's my moral principles about my online world or my relationship to technology? Like, can I go on political websites and troll people? Or be more like confrontational in a way that like, it's okay to be more confrontational online than I would be in person. You know, like I catch myself on like my mixed martial arts chat room with all the bro energy and just being like, you're a fucking dick. Like I would never say that to somebody in real life, but because I'm online, it's for some reason like, so what's my, like, how many TikTok videos are okay in one day? What about videos with violence? Or what about videos that, you know, inspire me to laugh at other people's misfortune? You know, seeing people slipping in the snow or something. And, you know, like, so what am I, who do I want to be in my life? What's the ethical principles that are relevant to that? And then instead of, or in addition to, the traditional vows, then track those ones, right? I I get to a point when I'm not super inspired by, did I destroy a city today? Followed by, did I destroy a country? Followed by, did I destroy a town? No. Did I laugh at someone's misfortune? Okay, so, or I'll just pick one thing and I'll just like track that. Stop criticizing people mentally. And then that's my book 6 times a day for a week or 2 weeks. Yeah, Stevie, I see your hand there. No.
I was doing my hand exercises.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I was wondering actually. It's like there's Stevie's hand with no cast. So that's a couple ways. Um, and then lastly, before we share, other people share ideas, getting in touch with that this is the absolute core of the teaching in Geshe Michael's teachings. Like if you're going to do anything, it should be the book. Like if you're only going to do one practice, it should be the book. It's the foundation. Because everything is powered, if you accept Buddhism, all of our yoga, all of our meditation, all of the perception of our reality, all of our subtle body, fancy tantric visualizations, all of our success in relationships, success at work, is built on the foundation of keeping our book. So if we accept Buddhism or Buddhist principles, you know, that essentially our actions are creating our world, then we should be inspired to keep a book 6 times a day. You know, we should be able to make the connection of relevancy. And so we stop the idea of the book, formally stop 6 times a day, check how we're doing with our self-identified ethical principles, and then train our mind. It's like this internal Santa Claus. Like, are we being naughty or nice? And feel good about the good things. Feel like, oh, I fell down in some areas. Can do better there. And Oh, let's do the first PPT image. You know, I think like Christina said, it starts with 6, and then it goes down to 4, and then it goes down to 2. Then I've only checked it 2 times in a day. And then we have I think at that point, people either just stop doing it altogether, or we find a way to get re-inspired. So is there anyone here that's never kept a book? Just without being shy, just raise your hand. If everyone has kept a book, I don't need to explain it. All right. Cool. Here's the traditional format. Stopping 6 times a day. Okay. Did I protect life? Yeah, I held my niece's hand as we crossed the street. Plus. Minus. I spaced out on my phone instead of paying attention to my niece while she was doing something not so safe to do. Today I'm not going to bring my phone out with me when I'm with my niece. I'm just going to give her all the attention. Something like that. So something that we did really well. So we're reinforcing a behavior that we want. The negative, the thing we kind of identify as, well, here's where I didn't do so good. And then something to make up, to retrain the mind. This is where I didn't do so good. So, I yelled at somebody, or I wrote a crappy email to my partner. Well, I'll phone her and apologize. Yeah, I did that. And then, we're like, the to-do is like repair the damage we've done as best we can. And again, an opportunity to create the habits that we want to create. So it's not Santa's ledger of good and bad stuff. It's a tool to retrain the mind. It's a tool to help us become the people we want to be. And to create the imprints, the seeds that will produce the reality that we want to live in. So that's the basic format of a ethical journal. We can add things. Sometimes I create my own. And sometimes one page is the vows, one page is a meditation journal. Sometimes I'll just format it in a way that includes, like, if I'm doing a practice of thinking of 3 things to do for somebody else today, that's a different practice. I'll have a different box. And that practice is called Pemba Kito. So I'll just have another box, and I'll track that. Yeah, so here's a place to start. And then kind of like Christina's question of like, how do we keep going? Well, I think part of it is how do we make it juicy? How do we make it interesting? Don't get stuck on this format. It's just a starting place. Okay. So those are some ideas I had. I want to break out into breakout groups, and we'll share hopefully people can share their tips and experiences. And what do you do? What advice can you offer that have helped you, start once you've stopped, or keep going consistently? Or what are the things that make it inspiring for you? Cool. We'll do the traditional. Is 8 minutes sound about right?
Maybe 10 or
Do I
8.
hear a 10?
Well, you said 10. I set it up as 10.
Let's do
We
10.
can change. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Karina. So, yeah, is that clear? Any quick questions? Okay, cool.
Earl, if you're still here, I put you in a group. Oh, okay. I was about to tell Earl that I put you in a group with Sarah, and here you are.
Yeah, I was in a group by myself, so I came back.
Yeah.
Like maybe joined too early.
No, because Earl didn't join.
Oh, I see.
Sorry, what's the problem? Are we just
No, I put you and Sarah into one group, and you didn't join, so she came back.
were we just in the group, the two of us?
No, it was supposed to be Frank with you, but Frank is also here.
Oh. Sarah, do you want to go Sarah, let's go in the breakout group together.
Карина,
Да, Леночка, сейчас, секунду.
please,
Okay, give me 1 sec.
of course.
Earl, do you need help getting to the breakout?
Yeah, I don't think I can do it. It's
Let
not.
me, you can go, let me, okay. Let me do it this way. I will send you the invite and you will have to admit it, okay?
Yep.
Okay. I just sent him to the breakout. Well,
You didn't join the group.
no, wait a second.
Sarah,
I will just.
patience. My
Oh.
God.
Why everyone is here?
I want to
Lena,
work. I want to work.
I sent you to the group.
I
Yeah.
come
Alright.
and once more. Yes.
Okay, once again,
Okay.
here you are.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let me see if I can. Well, you are Earl and Sarah. You are in a group, and Earl, she's in a group. Can you try to join it once again?
Which one is she in?
She's in the
Yeah, it
you
doesn't
will
give me
see
an
the
option.
Rom. Yeah, you will see the Rom group, and before the Rom, there is the English one.
Yeah,
Can you do that?
I can't join it. It's blacked out.
That's weird. Okay, let me try once again. I hope it's gonna work. Well, I have to put you in some other group and then I should remove you to the English group. So just, I don't know, try to stick. Юлечка, ты что, вылетела?
Нет, у меня никого в группе не было. Я вернулась в основную.
Лена ушла туда, и она почему-то тебя не нашла там, хотя вы обе у меня были в группе. Сейчас тебя перемещу куда-нибудь. Прости,
Спасибо
сейчас
большое.
перекину.
Я чуть немножко задержалась, чтобы нажать на кнопку, и она уже
Она
ушла,
пропала.
видимо.
Сейчас
Мгм.
тебе должен прийти инвайт.
Ага, спасибо.
Давай.
Thanks, Karina. That was fun.
Yay.
Are you
I'm
drinking a
sorry,
matcha?
didn't.
Yeah, except I already finished it.
Hmm.
It's so good. It's like a liquid dessert.
I remember drinking matcha in New York airport on the way to Diamond Mountain. That was fun.
From Starbucks?
Yeah,
Sarah,
exactly.
Sarah loves that. It's her favorite
It's my
matcha.
favorite matcha. I mean, because it's just sugar.
Yeah, that's
Just
why it's the favorite one.
straight sugar. Yeah.
Cool. All right, everyone is going back.
Cool. Okay. Please share. What was the tips or the tricks of the trade that stood out? Did anyone have any ideas? You're like, oh my God, that's awesome.
I love that Rosie leaves her book out where she can see it that it's there physically in front of her as sort of a reminder. I love that idea. I think I'm going to take mine and dust it off and put it on the coffee table.
Yeah. We talked about that too, Sarah.
Yeah, I was gonna share that we made a plan to write out the vows every morning. So the way to start is just what are the 6, and then physically like rewrite the vow, because then it's in my head for the whole day.
Mhm. How many people do theirs on like a virtual platform as a not written in a book, but virtually get the vows texted? Elena, Benji, sort of. Ola, 50-50. Cool. Christian, yeah, go for it.
I just raised the hand for the question, but I think
Yeah.
Marilena wanted to speak.
Okay, cool. If someone would like to share, please do. Sorry, I can't see everybody. All right.
Eu voiam să spun ceva.
Sorry?
I wanted to say
Oh,
something.
Lena, sure, please.
Voiam să spun o idee pe
Da.
care
Добрый
I
день
wanted
всем.
I wanted to share an idea
Мы
that I've heard from Christian. Even if we don't manage to write it down in the book, it's helpful to set a reminder, an alarm on our phone, and to remember
я еще ничего не говорю.
propunerea de
Куда
a
уйти?
respecta 1, 2 principii
that
morale
we should
și
Я тоже
să ne
слышу испанский, я не
întreținem
слышу
o
перевода
look
на
și
английский.
o
to write down at least
conștiință.
1, 2
Putem să
vows,
și
and
altele.
once we develop
Iar
discipline, we
faptul
can
că
add more.
nu reușim întotdeauna să,
And
datorită contextelor, să stăm și să notăm în cartea
sometimes we don't manage to
ne reamintim
write down in the book, but it's important for us to think about it
datorită alarmei pe telefon, ne aducem prezent
because
și
of the
ne
alarm that we have on
ne
our
facem mai
phone.
conștienți.
It brings us to
Și
the present moment and it
mulțumesc lui
makes us more
Cristian
aware.
de
And I
Я
want
не
to
могу, к
thank
сожалению, не
to
слышу по-английски, прошу
Christian for the
прощения.
idea.
Не слышу перевода.
Awesome. Totally agree. Thank you. Sarah, what? Elena, did you want to
хотела
share?
сказать я. Да, спасибо. Мы в нашей небольшой группе
We in our small group,
пользуемся платформой
we have a special platform where you can have all the settings. She sends you ethical principles in particular time. And in this chat, you can write the answer. And what did you do during 2 hours? And it's very convenient. And we admit it that sometimes we are not correct, accurate when we do this book. But the most important thing is that we mark, even without books, even we forget about it, how to do it, or maybe we put some additions, some additional information, maybe some event that happened within these 2 hours, irrelevant of the ethical principle. So we start with a small, for example, for somebody who is a novice, you should start with something small, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. But we recommend this platform. I started to do by hand. It was very convenient to me because then I like have a whole sentence. And when I have an electronic version, I can write 2 words. For example, I spend money somewhere, and when I write by hand, I like put my emotions and feelings inside it, and I feel it like for the second time, not just simply putting it out and writing it. And I think the imprint is much more stronger when you do it here and here as well, in the heart and in my mind. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Elena, for sharing. Yeah, I really I feel the same about the imprint of writing it and the imprint of sharing it with others. There's been times in my life where I have committed to sharing. I used to keep a list of the worst and force myself to give them to Geshe Michael. Like I wouldn't make it a big long list and bore him with all of the stupid stuff I do. But I did commit to like the worst things and just be like, here you go. You know, here's what a jackass your student can be. And I found that was helpful. In a couple ways. One, somewhat stopping me from doing things that I wouldn't want to have to share. Also, to have someone that I could trust enough to do that, to be like, these are the things I struggle with the most. And to feel safe that, you know, they weren't going to share that with somebody else. They weren't doing that out of some weird power trip, or they weren't like, you know, it wasn't a gossipy thing. It wasn't like, just felt it was on my own initiative. And I've done that with a few other people at points in my life where I've just been like, on Sunday, it's like a sojung ceremony. So sojung is like a confession ceremony. And, you know, a couple times with a couple other people, one-on-one, we would just share like the best and the worst. And that was also really hard. But kind of like Elena was saying, to make it that tangible was powerful. And I think that's the value of Sojong ceremony. So what do? We've identified our morality. We've decided to track it. When we break it, not if, but when, what do we do? And there's a bunch of different ideas on that. In the Vinaya, it's Sojong, which is a purification ceremony. And it's meant to help us do two things. One, purify our broken vows, but two, to purify the split and the disconnect in a community. And it's very clear about that. Like one of the main purposes of Sojong is to fix divisiveness in the community by coming together and sharing what's on our heart. And so the ceremony was generally for ordained people, and it was done twice a month. And that was one of the main methods in the Vinaya. Another is called Tundruk. Druk means 6. So Tundruk, it's a prayer that you repeat, and you do it 3 times. And you kind of just list your vows, basically. And then you do it once in the morning, once in the evening. And that's the practice of Tundruk that they did in the monastery. And that's the basis of the 6 times book. Instead of just reciting the vows 3 times, literally like just listing them, take refuge, generate bodhicitta, read off your vows, which is good. It keeps them in your mind. But that's how Geshe Michael took that practice and then created the 6 times book out of that. So these are some methods to purify mistakes. Sojong, Tundruk. Elena, did you have a question? I see your hand raised.
Да, можно я еще дополню, потому что я вспомнила.
Yes, I have something to add. It was 2 years ago in a community.
Каждый, когда рассказывал о себе,
when each in the community was speaking about himself, I hold a marathon on 10 ethical principles, and 1 ethical principles, 3 days. 1 day positive things, 1 day negative things, and the 3rd day was to do, antidote. There were people who came out who failed to do the marathon, but people who managed to finish it, they realized how they can live these principles. And then they started to learn further, they started to learn karmic management, and started to learn the laws of karma. And they trusted this practice, and it was very important for me that they told me how they lived these days. And so it was a communication, and we were always giving each other feedbacks.
Yeah.
So because when you support the people, it's very, very important, and you need a circle of close people, of friends, of community, and stuff like that.
Cool, thanks. And I've done this exercise with kids, 15-year-olds. Like the idea of a 6 times book, I think, is super applicable to not just a Buddhist context. Ola has a question. Put it in the chat. I'm going to keep going a little bit. Another thing we can do is a very simple fire ceremony it's called Dorje Kadro. Dorje Kadro. And I thought we would just do it very briefly So if people have never done it, they would catch the essence. And I don't have the capacity to light a fire where I'm at right now, but it's a very small fire ceremony. And I've done this ceremony a lot, not in New York so much, but we used to do it a lot with Geshe Michael. And getting a piece of paper. And then I'd like to do it very quickly. And just writing down 3 good things we've done, 3 bad things we've done. So let's just do the thing.
Have you ever heard about if you write a name on that piece of paper to circle it?
Yeah. Don't throw them in the fire. Also, don't put names in my book. I tend to like use initials and write really messy. Just in case other people read it. I've had that problem before. I was teaching this once and just held up my book as an example briefly, and someone screenshotted it. I think in like the 2 seconds that I had it up there, someone took a screenshot. That was funny. Someone said, should we write the last 24 hours? There's a couple things that, here's what Geshe taught me and what I find works. Start with the things that are recent and kill that seed immediately. So good to do the last 24 hours. And good to do the big things that kind of the big life things that you want to wear away at and wear down. Like when I was young, I was a partner of mine had an abortion. So, I always try to think of like the big things that still kind of weigh on my conscience the most. Like when I think, what are the worst things I've done in my life? Those make my list. And I really believe that when we work on those, eventually they change. And the purification works. And so the things that used to weigh on my conscience the most, after sometimes years of working on them, I just noticed that when I think of the worst things I've done in my life, they've changed. Like, that's not the thing anymore. Maybe I've come to peace with it. Maybe I've come to have a different understanding of it. And I think that's a sign of that seed being purified. Or there's very specific dreams that we might have, being high up on a mountain, things that are very white, pure white, or very disgusting things leaving the body. Being really unnaturally sick in a very short, intense way. Like out of the blue, having a wicked headache for 24 hours, or throwing up for a day for no real reason. I used to have dreams about losing my teeth, and it was always a new tooth. And I just progressively lost all of my teeth in my dreams, which was weird because I don't really dream that often. And then years later, I found out that's a sign of purification. So then, okay, the idea is, taking those minuses, having some sort of like, being outside and having a fire is great. Throw that in, and then just seeing it burn and feeling like that seed is burning. And then the same thing with the positive side. Throwing that in a fire and seeing the smoke, expanding that out to the universe as an offering. And sometimes we would do this with a small metal can, and do it in a house with a bunch of ghee on the bottom and some wooden matches and black sesame seeds, and just kind of one by one throw those seeds and hear them pop. And just kind of enjoying the process of letting go of some things that we did that kind of hold us back. My time with Geshe Michael and my experiences, this ceremony is way better when it's joyful. There can be some times of tears or letting go or emotions, but the sojongs we did with Geshe Michael, or the fire ceremonies, there was 2 rules that we had to follow. One was there had to be hot chocolate, and second was there had to be popcorn. And every fire ceremony, like, that was part of the routine. Someone's got to bring hot chocolate, and we're going to have popcorn. And it felt really important. Like, the sojung should be joyful, should be a fun, joyful time where we're like repairing what was broken, and joining in community sometimes to support each other in becoming who we want to become. So that was really important, and I really feel like that about, like, for me, when I think about the fire ceremony, my association is like super fun. Like, that's great. Let's go burn stuff up. And I think that's I think that's a nice attitude. And also when things kind of, like I remember when 9/11 hit, I went outside and I just made a big fire and I did the ceremony. And I made some big commitments at that time of like I will never hit somebody ever, or I think really like reinforcing vegetarianism, or like, but I remember like when big events happen in our world, this is another thing we can do. And it felt really clarifying and purifying for me. Immediately taking action was something powerful. Okay, let's do the PPT. Stevie.
I just have a suggestion too during
Stevie,
Sojong.
Stevie,
Sorry.
Stevie, you're like me. You're trying to avoid the class content as hard as possible also.
That's right. But just a suggestion, it's really nice when you're setting up your fire ceremony to just say the Heart Sutra. It's a really nice addition. It just brings it all home. Kind of a little taste of emptiness,
Yeah. When we were in 3-year retreat, there was some problems happening. And Steve, you know Geshe Lotar, right? Geshe Lotar is Geshe Michael's teacher's nephew, something like that. And he said, out of the blue, we got a message from Geshe Lotar, and he's like, I want everyone to sit at the door of their cabin and do the Heart Sutra and just like protect the retreat from negative influences. And he's like, do the Heart Sutra out loud at the door of your cabin. He's like, get your shit together.
Now.
Okay, PPT. Next one. So when we have vows of like, don't destroy a city, what do we do? So this, or like adultery, like I don't cheat on my partner. That thought doesn't come in my mind. And so we can, Geshe Michael's advice was like, work out in concentric circles. What do we do when we have vows that we just don't break? Like we have vows it's impossible to break. Drawing blood from the Buddha. It's referring to someone that lived 2,500 years ago. I couldn't do that if I wanted to. Can't break that vow even if I wanted to. So, killing my mom and dad, it's not a problem. I'm not going to do that. That's the center of the circle. But what would be like my concentric circles for any of those things? Well, I didn't kill my mom or my dad, but sure did get irritated with my mom yesterday. Like, or so anything like that. And so we need to branch out. And seems obvious, but then we can kind of disassociate from the vow also when we're constantly branching out so much that it's like, oh, well, sometimes I think it's kind of good to go back in. We tend to concentric circle out a lot. And for me, there's this line of like not forgetting what's in the center. Like we can't concentric circle out so much that we've lost sight of what the middle is. Next slide. Cool. Today we're going to talk about 10 non-virtues. Here they are. Killing means taking life. Stealing, taking anything of value. Sexual misconduct, mainly adultery. Next slide. Sarah, you're getting compliments in the chat there. I hope you're noticing. So those were related to body, 10 non-virtues related to speech, lying, divisive talk, harsh words, idle talk. Next one. 10 non-virtues related to mind. Oh, these are interesting. This is from the answer key, Sarah? Okay. Not always how Geshe defines things. Craving. Wanting stuff other people have. Sometimes it's ill will, wishing something bad on another person, rejoicing in their failures. Wrong view. There's traditionally 8 wrong worldviews, and that's what the wrong views means. It refers to 8 ideas, like karma and emptiness isn't true. It's not just it's not just believing in self-existence. There's 8 traditional wrong views. Okay, next slide. Oh my God. We have so little time. It's okay. We will get the idea. We looked at 10 non-virtues. So then we look at, like, when we break those, how is that karma going to ripen? And we're going to look at results in 4 different ways. A ripened result. He translated it here as a corresponding result, which means a similar result. There's a habit that will form, and there's an environmental result. So we're starting with 10 non-virtues. It's a very basic list. And the idea in pratimoksha is keep this list, we will pratimoksha. We as an individual will get to nirvana. So we can use this list to, when we look at the results, to see, oh, Sarah and I were having this discussion this morning, like, here's a problem I see in my life. Let's go back and figure out the cause and then stop doing that cause. So we can use the list of karmic results to kind of pinpoint where we're creating problems and how to design our future. Ripened result means how are the bad deeds going to ripen into a future rebirth? If we do those 10 bad deeds a lot or in extreme ways, we get the birth in a hell. If we do those bad deeds a medium amount, what is a medium amount? It's a countable amount. Okay. If we've done something so many times, we can no longer really count it. That's a lot. We're now into category 1. We can still kind of think about all the times we did, like, I can't, sorry, translator. I can't count the amount of times I've mentally criticized people. It's beyond my capacity to think of all of those instances. I can think of the times I've stolen. I could tell you every time I've stolen something. And then a lesser instance is birth as an animal. So held birth, craving spirit birth, animal birth. Can't remember the number of times the lesser instances is. It's like times we can count on one or two hands or something like that. And so those are ripened results. Next slide. So these are, now we're moving into it's like a similar result or a corresponding result. So if we do the 10 non-virtues, we're going to have a corresponding result that's similar to the cause we created. So if I kill a lot of things in this life, I can expect to have a short life and be sick a lot. If I steal a lot, I'm going to have issues having a perception that I have enough. I won't have enough to support myself. People will borrow things and not return them. Stuff like that. Sexual misconduct. It's interesting. People around us won't be reliable. People will be trying to steal your partner. Let's go to the next slide. So again, these are similar results to actions. If we lie, then it's like our voice isn't heard. Or like it's not believed. And everyone is deceiving us. Divisive speech. We live in a work environment where people are, gossipy or talking shit behind people's back. So if we have that result, we can kind of like, why is everyone at work talking behind each other's back? Why are we all kind of, as soon as someone turns around, people are blaming each other. So we can look at the results that we have and work backwards to see the cause and try to not do those things. Harsh words. You live in New York. All the sirens are ridiculously loud. The subway is loud. You will be noise sensitive. I should look at this one. I hear loud things, all like in the restaurant, like dying because it's so loud. And then I'll leave the restaurant and be like, oh my God, that was painful. And the people I'm with will be like, no, it wasn't so bad. Idle talk. We just hear things as unimportant. What used to be important now just seems kind of boring. Boring. Next slide. Craving. Dominated by desire. Ill will. Being hurt by others. Wrong view. It's more of the same, more wrong view. So we're going to go quick through these. If the list is new, I think it's nice to spend some time and to kind of get into it more deeply, or to refresh ourselves on these consequences. Next slide. So the consistent result here means we're going to have a habit of it. So I think of like someone like Jeffrey Dahmer, like someone that murdered a lot of people. He had seeds in his past life. It's clear, well, it seems that are consistent with how Buddhism describes things. Grew up and just, was the kid that was squishing bugs. Was the kid that was just kind of disregarded life. And then later in life had that what is it called here? It's like a consistent result of doing that same thing again. Killing people. Unfortunate habit to have. And then had that environmental result of being in a very, very violent upbringing, very violent situations around him, being in prison, and having that result of being killed at a very young age. So we can see the theme playing out in a rather extreme example. So this habit, and it makes sense if we criticize people, that it's just gonna, it's gonna become a habit. We're just training our mind in a habit. Let's do the next slide. And then there's an environmental result. And these, I think, I don't know, this list is interesting. The result of killing, the food we eat doesn't have nutrition. Stealing. Class must almost be over. The kids are banging at the door. Crops are few and far between. They spoil. Sexual misconduct. You live in New York. Subways, they're disgusting. Everything stinks. Next slide. We can read, everyone can read the slides. I want to tie up one last thought. Have a look at, if these lists are new, have a look, because the environmental consequences aren't as intuitive. I want to talk about seeds in general for a second. I think the understanding the 4 ways a seed ripens, like we talked about, it's really helpful. It's really helpful to have a basic understanding that if I do this, a similar result is going to happen. If I criticize, I'm going to have that habit. Those things are going to happen to me. I'll live in a place where people criticize each other. And I think we tend to oversimplify the idea of karma. Like if I give $20, I get 40. Or to think of like there's a single cause and a single result. And we study it and it's helpful. And then we get into these problems where it's less clear. Like if I give broccoli, then I should get broccoli. But I don't like broccoli. So if I'm being nice, by giving somebody what they want, broccoli, why do I have to get more of it? You know, karma can't be that simple. And we kind of get into these gray areas or things where it's just not that straightforward. Or like we do something and it produces a seed. Well, what does that mean? We tend to think of a seed as physical. So then where does this physical thing stay? What happens if I die and my physical body is gone? And then there's just there's a mind that continues. Well, how does a physical thing stay in the mind? Well, then maybe it's not physical. And so it's very difficult. There's this action that produces some sort of magical seed that magically stays somewhere, that magically turns into a result. And that result is a cause for another result. And it gets complex. And so the binary system of I did this, and so I get that kind of is helpful and simplistic. So, and I don't know, I struggle with it, but I wanted to share what a friend of mine, how he talked about it, because it was helpful for me. He's like, if we had a piece of paper and all of our actions, it's like we're kind of poking holes in that paper, and then the light can shine through those holes. What if it was like the paper is my mind and those holes become like the imprints, and then where those holes are is my predisposition to encounter those things again. Like I have a hole now for a pen. It doesn't fit glass. It doesn't fit alarm clock. It doesn't fit winning the lottery. It does fit experience of pen. Or maybe something similar, maybe pencil. Like, and then that perception of pen can be activated again. Because I have I have that imprint in my mind. It's like maybe like a neural pathway or like a chemical change in my brain that allows me to perceive the world differently. Because I've poked a hole in my mind. Now, when that lines up with other things, I can have a perception of them. But it's not just a few holes, it's like this unique snowflake that's infinitely complex. And so do we have an imprint for aspirin to work? Like maybe today, yes, maybe tomorrow, no. Because those holes have to line up, those neural pathways have to line up, those changes in my brain have to line up. So as we become accustomed to helping other people, providing help, poking holes in my piece of paper, habituating my mind to help, reading healthy things, it's like that now is going to line up with being attracted to healthier lifestyle, healthier food. And then the situation kind of compounds itself because now I'm poking more health holes in my mind, which then when I look through is going to line up with more health things in my world. If I'm poking more holes, if I just poke one hole of generosity, it's only going to line up with one thing. If I have 1,000 holes of generosity, now it kind of lines up with hanging out with people that understand finances or being more interested in it or getting better at investing or having the confidence to ask for a raise or whatever. And it's through like that habituation of poking holes in our mind that allows us to see the world in that complexity in a myriad of ways that line up with the actions of what we've done. I don't know if that's helpful. My point is a couple things. It's super helpful to start with simplicity. I give broccoli, I get broccoli. Eventually we're like, wait a minute, I don't want broccoli. It's just a bad deal. Something's wrong in the system. And so it becomes a little more intricate, a little more intelligent. What do you mean a seed stays in my mind? What does that mean? And we can get a little more refined in our understanding of seeds. And then maybe we get a list of consequences, environmental consequences, habitual consequences, the similar result. And then we can kind of have a more refined view. What's the value of studying those lists? It can refine our view of seeds and refine our. So then I'm like in the subway and someone's taking a dump on the subway platform again. And it's like, oh, instead of it just being, that's disgusting, I've done sexual misconducty things in the past. I've forced someone to use the subway as a urinal. And I would never have guessed that that's related to sexual misconduct. So then understanding those lists allows us to perhaps be more motivated and intelligent about how we live our life and why we live it like that. Let me read what's going on in the chat. Okay.
We were just laughing at the way you were talking about what you see in the subway. It was from a very lived experience.
True. All right, we are out of time. I appreciate people sharing their thoughts and having discussion in class. We got a little bit more today. Less time on content, so please spend time on the content. It doesn't need a lot of explanation, but it does need some attention. I don't feel I need to explain it, but if we don't do the reading or spend some time thinking about it, it's not going to help. Next class, Tuesday, Venerable Jigme will be here. if you're listening to the recording, please show up and experience that. The uniqueness of Venerable Jigme live. Come with questions. She's got a world of experience. Her sense of humor is very subtle, and I think she's really hilarious. But what is it? It's like she's someone that tells a joke and you don't realize it's a joke for a couple seconds. What's the word for that? Anyway, I'm really looking forward to it. I really encourage you to come and to use her as a resource and tap into her decades and decades of experience in Vinaya. 40 years of thinking about these things. I'm over time. Sorry for keeping us late. Thank you so much for being here. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you, translators. Thank you,
Keep
Karina.
teaching.
And I look forward to when we get to hang out again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all. See you on Tuesday.
Thanks, Karina.
Thanks, Earle. Thank you so much.
Octavian, thank you for translating. Eka, thank you for translating.
Roxana, thank you for translating too.
Roxana, also, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Christy, Tanya, for recording. Frank, for being here and not here
Roxana,
at the same time.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Please stay. Bye. All right. See you on Tuesday, everyone. Thank you for showing up.